Tonight we trade the soft glow of your bedside lamp for the fragile, pearl-gray light of a dawn 1,000 years past. You are not in your bed. You are on a thin, woven mat, your body stiff from a wooden headrest, the scent of aged tatami and the faint, ever-present damp of the capital's humidity filling your nose. A rectangle of pale sky is just visible through the shoji screen. Silence hangs, thick and expectant, over the sprawling imperial palace compound of Heian-era, a silence you know is a held breath. It is broken not by birdsong, but by the swift, hushed shuffle of silk-socked feet in the wooden corridor outside your modest chamber. A sharp, polite knock, a kodan, at the lattice door panel. Your heart, even half asleep, sinks and lifts at once. This is it. The summons. A court musician's life is a tapestry of exquisite routine punctuated by moments of sheer, stomach-dropping contingency, and it seems your day is beginning with the latter. You probably won't survive this, not physically, of course, but socially, professionally. A single misstep in the hours to come could unravel a career built over a decade, leaving you a gently mocked relic in some provincial backwater, composing odes to local fish. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push yourself up, the fine linen of your sleeping robe cool against your skin. Enter, you call, your voice rough with sleep. The panel slides aside, revealing a young page, a boy of maybe 12, kneeling in the dim corridor. He is impeccably turned out in his dark Hitate servant's robes, his face a mask of solemn urgency. He does not meet your eyes. His gaze is fixed respectfully on the floorboards just inside your room. In his hands, resting on the pale wood, is a small, folded piece of kami paper, pristine and white. The sight of it sends a fresh, cold trickle down your spine. This isn't a routine schedule notification scrawled on common paper. This is formal, crisp stationery, the kind used for immediate, important communication within the inner palace. Forgive the intrusion, master musician. The page murmurs, his voice a high, careful thread. A message from the office of the imperial household. The August one is moved to observe the morning star from the Sirioden's eastern veranda. He desires accompaniment. The biwa. Within the hour. He presents the note with both hands, sliding it forward before bowing so low his forehead nearly touches the floor. You take the paper. The note is brief, written in swift, elegant cursive. It confirms the page's words, adding only the seal of the Chamberlain's office, a stamped vermilion circle that holds more authority than any shouted command. The Emperor. An unexpected, intimate astronomical observation. A desire for the melancholic, piercing tones of the four-stringed lute you have spent your life mastering. This is not one of the grand, scheduled rituals with the full Gagaku orchestra providing a wall of sound so dense it feels like architectural support. This is personal, capricious, and terrifying. Historians still argue whether these sudden artistic whims of the Heian emperors were genuine spiritual or aesthetic impulses, or brilliantly subtle political tools to keep the court on its toes, to see who was alert, who was prepared, who could translate imperial mood into melody on zero notice. You dismiss the page with a soft word of thanks, and he scuttles away, his footsteps fading into the sigh of the waking palace. You are alone with the paper and the dawn. Your mind races. Which piece? Something from the Tang tradition, stable and revered, or a newer, more fragile Japanese-style composition? The Morning Star, Venus. A piece with a sense of lonely wonder, of celestial distance. The Roi piece Getsuraka? Too obvious in its moon imagery. Perhaps Banshiki, in its slower tempo, its intervals feel like vast, quiet spaces. You are already mentally fingering the frets, your left hand twitching slightly as you run through the opening phrases. But first, you must become a courtier. The music is only the final, most perilous layer. Before a single note is plucked, you must be wrapped in the correct armor of silk. You rise and step to the corner of your small room, where your clothing stands ready on a lacquered rack, prepared last night by your single attendant. The layers await, a silent hierarchy of fabric. The first layer is the akome, an unlined underrobe of plain white silk. You slip it on, the sensation cool and smooth. This is the foundational truth, the blank page. Over this goes the haito, a single-layer robe of pale blue, a color permitted for your mid-rank, a fifth-rank musician who has the privilege, but not the requirement, of regular attendance. You tie the small, flat sash. Next, the noshaim, a patterned silk robe in a subdued, geometric design of gray and indigo. Each layer adds not just warmth, but weight, a literal and metaphorical accumulation of your place in the world. The final outer layer is the ho, the stiff, square-cut court jacket. Its color is crucial. Deep green, a kokechi shade, the exact hue dictated by the season, early autumn, and your rank. Getting this wrong is not a fashion faux pas. It is an insult to the entire celestial order imitating structure of the court, a visible statement that you don't know your place. And here's the amusingly brutal detail. The multiple layers of silk, especially the voluminous, trailing trousers called sashinuki you'll put on later, are not just about opulence. In a palace with notoriously poor heating, they are essential survival gear. The cumbersome elegance is, in part, a very sophisticated defense against hypothermia. You are a musician, a bureaucrat, and a thermos. You take a deep breath, the silks rustling with a sound like distant, dry leaves. The gray light has gained a faint tinge of gold. The hour is shrinking. You turn from your robes for a moment and walk to where your instrument rests on a dedicated stand, wrapped in a brocade cloth. You will not touch it yet. Not until you are fully assembled. But you look at it, this piece of paulownia which shaped into a teardrop body, its 4 silk strings slack. It is your voice, your livelihood, and your potential downfall. In less than an hour, you will kneel in the cool morning air, with the most powerful man in Japan as your sole audience, and you will have to make it speak not just notes, but the quiet language of the dawn itself. The sashinuki trousers are your next trial. They are not trousers as you might imagine them. They are vast, ballooning sleeves of heavy, patterned silk for your legs, so extravagantly full that the excess material pulls around your ankles like a pair of deflated silken clouds. You step into them, one leg at a time, the fabric whispering promises of future tangles. The waist is gathered and secured with a sturdy cord, but the real challenge begins as you attempt to walk. You don't so much stride as perform a delicate, shuffling glide, lifting each foot just high enough to clear the gleaming sugi-wood floor without catching the hem under your heel. It's a walk designed to prevent haste, to enforce a stately, floating pace. In the corridors of power, rushing is the height of vulgarity. These trousers are the imperial administration's physical enforcement of that rule. You practice a few steps across your chamber, a slow, rustling waddle that would, under less dire circumstances, be comical. You remember your first year at court, watching a senior noble, in a moment of unobserved panic, actually trip over his own sashinuki and go down in a magnificent, rustling heap of indignity and expensive dye. He was reassigned to a remote governorship within the week. The court does not forgive gracelessness. Now comes the ho, the stiff, square-cut outer jacket. You lift it from the rack. The deep green silk is cool and heavy, embroidered with your family's mon, a modest, 5-petaled plum blossom, in a slightly darker thread over your heart. The jacket is more a cape than a fitted garment. It hangs from your shoulders, open at the front, its wide, wing-like sleeves extending past your fingertips. You slip your arms in, settling the weight on your shoulders. The ensemble is complete. You are now, visually, a component of the court machine. The layers prescribe your posture. You must stand straight to bear their weight, the stiff collar framing your face, forcing your chin to a politely elevated angle. You are wrapped, packaged, and labeled according to the precise social taxonomy of Heian Japan. But you are not yet presentable. You move to your modest dressing stand, where a bronze mirror, polished to a hazy sheen, rests beside a lacquered box. You open the box. Inside are the final tools of your transformation: a small razor, a pot of white rice powder, and a vial of precious, subtly perfumed oil. First, the face. The ideal male courtier's visage is one of pale, serene composure, a canvas upon which emotions are painted with minute precision, not splashed with the crude colors of nature. Using a soft pad, you apply the rice powder, dusting away the ruddy traces of sleep, creating a matte, neutral plane. Your eyebrows, you darken slightly with a charred stick, giving them a clean, defined arch. It's not a mask of makeup so much as it is a public uniform for your features. Historians often fixate on the famed tooth blackening, ohaguro, and shaved eyebrows of high-ranking Heian ladies, but the courtly man's grooming was equally ritualized, a subtle art of erasing the vulgarity of the flesh to better project the refined essence of the spirit. Or, at least, to look like you spent your night composing wistful waka poems and not snoring into a wooden pillow. Next, the scent. You uncork the small vial. The fragrance that wafts out is not floral or sweet, but woody and complex, a blend of ginkgo, aloeswood, clove, and a hint of citrus. This is incense key, perfume not as a frivolity, but as a vital component of personal presentation and atmospheric contribution. In the closely packed, often poorly ventilated rooms of the palace, a pleasing personal aroma was a civic duty. You dab a tiny amount at your temples and on the back of your neck. The scent is faint, a personal cloud that will unfold with the warmth of your body as you move through the day. It is also a strategic choice. Aloeswood is known for its calming, clarifying properties. You are, in effect, aromatherapizing yourself for the performance ahead. Finally, the hair. Your own hair, oiled and drawn back into a high, tight topknot, is the foundation. From the lacquered box, you lift your kamuri, the black lacquered, silken court cap. It is a ridged, boxy structure that perches precariously on the crown of your head, secured by a white cord that you must tie precisely under your chin. The kamuri is the ultimate symbol of your official rank. Its shape, the color of its cord, and even the height of its upright back panel, the EI, are all codified by law. Yours, for the 5th rank, is of a specific, modest height. Putting it on is a moment of profound focus. A crooked kamuri is the equivalent of wearing your military medals upside down at a state dinner. You settle it, adjust the cord, and check your reflection in the bronze mirror. The face that looks back is familiar yet transformed, paler, more austere, framed by the severe lines of the stiff collar and the architectural black of the cap. The eyes are yours, alive with a nervous intelligence, but the rest is the protocol officer's creation. You take one last, steadying breath. The scent of aloeswood fills your nose. Your stomach gives a soft, traitorous gurgle. Right. Sustenance. You cannot perform for the emperor on an empty stomach, but the rules here are as precise as those governing your robes. You slide open your door and step into the corridor, your sashanuki whispering their soft, sweeping sigh against the floorboards. You make your slow, gliding way not to any kind of kitchen, but to a small, designated anteroom where your morning meal will be served. It is not a feast. A single attendant, an older woman with a face like a kind walnut, kneels beside a low tray. On it is a bowl of warm, thin okayu, rice gruel, a few pickled umeboshi plums the color of a deep bruise, a small piece of grilled ayu sweetfish, and a cup of hot water. This is the breakfast abstinence. You will eat lightly, avoiding garlic, leeks, or any strong-smelling vegetables that might offend the imperial nose should you be required to kneel close. The fish is for strength, the pickles to wake the senses, the gruel to settle the stomach. The hot water is to clear the throat. You kneel before the tray, your light robes forming a careful circle around you. Every movement is conscious, a negotiation with the fabric. You eat with deliberate, small bites, your chopsticks making no sound against the lacquerware. The food is simple, clean. It is fuel, not pleasure. The kind woman watches you, her eyes crinkling. She has served musicians for 30 years. She says nothing, but her presence is a calm anchor. As you finish the last grain of rice, she offers a barely perceptible nod. It means, you are ready, or as ready as you can be. You rise, the silk settling around you with a weight that now feels familiar, a second skin of obligation. The pale dawn light through the paper screens has strengthened, now shot through with clear, gold strands. The hour of the morning star is approaching. You glide back to your chamber. It is time to meet your instrument, and through it, your destiny. The walk from your residential quarters to the Ceremonial, the Emperor's primary private residence and the heart of the inner palace, is a journey through a landscape of layered silence and watchful geometry. You do not walk alone. Your attendant, the old woman's nephew perhaps, a boy of 15 with a face of practiced blankness, walks 3 paces behind you, carrying your biwa in its brocade bag, holding it aloft as if it were a sacred object. Which, in this context, it is. You are the master, he is the vessel for the tool of your art. This small procession, you in your gliding, rustling splendor, the boy in humble attendant's wear, is a moving diagram of hierarchy. You move through covered corridors, the row, their plank floors polished to a deep, honeyed gloss by centuries of similar shuffling steps. The walls are simple wooden lattices screened with shoji, diffusing the morning light into a soft, papery glow. Outside, glimpses of the palace gardens are carefully composed like living paintings, a precisely railed gravel path, a mossy stone lantern, the arch of a small bridge over a narrow stream. Nothing is wild. Everything is a testament to controlled beauty. You pass other courtiers, all moving with the same deliberate, floating pace. Nods are exchanged, infinitesimal dips of the kimura-topped head. Sometimes, if the rank is significantly higher, you must pause, slide slightly to the side of the corridor, and sink into a low kneel, your forehead nearly touching the floor as they pass without a glance. This is the walk of rank, a continuous, unspoken negotiation of status played out in real time on a stage of fragrant cedar and light. The only sounds are the whisper of silk, the soft shush-shush of sashinuki, and the distant, melancholic cry of a hototojisu bird from the deeper gardens. You approach the checkpoints. The diary, the inner palace, is a fortress of etiquette. A senior guard in ornate armor, his expression carved from stone, stands at a painted gateway. He does not look at your face. His eyes sweep your robes, registering the shade of green, the cut of your ho, the height of your kimura eye. He sees the family Monday. He sees the attendant with the instrument. This visual calculus takes less than a second. He gives a single, sharp nod and steps aside. You are permitted to pass from the outer administrative areas into the more privileged inner ring. The air changes here. It becomes heavier, subtly perfumed with the lingering smoke of a rosewood incense burned through the night. The corridors feel quieter, the scrutiny more intense. You pass closed screens behind which you hear the faint, muffled sounds of life. A soft cough, the chime of a bronze bowl, a snippet of whispered conversation that stops dead as your shadow passes the paper wall. Historians still argue whether this intense spatial segregation, the nested boxes of access within the palace, was primarily for security or for the psychological cultivation of imperial divinity. Was it to keep assassins out, or to make the person of the emperor so remote that the very act of approaching him became a transformative ritual? As you glide closer, you feel the truth of the latter. With each permitted gateway, you shed a little of your mundane self. The man who woke up stiff and anxious is being distilled, through ritual movement and enforced silence, into the pure function of court musician. You are a note waiting to be played in the imperial score. You finally enter the outermost veranda of the Ceremonial complex itself. The building is a masterpiece of Shindan-zukuri architecture, wide, sweeping roofs of gray bark, walls that are almost entirely movable screens, elevating the whole structure into a kind of permanent pavilion open to the elements. Here, you are met not by a guard, but by a senior palace lady, a nyokan, her many layers of Junahito robes a cascading waterfall of crimsons and purples, her face a ghostly white oval beneath piled, black hair. She kneels by a pillar, a living part of the decor. She does not look at you directly, but her voice, when she speaks, is clear and low, meant only for your ears. The August one is at the eastern rail. You will kneel at the third pillar from the corner. You will not look up unless directly commanded. You will begin when the star's light begins to fade with the dawn. You understand. It is not a question. You sink into a deep bow. I understand, and am unworthy of the honor. She gives the faintest inclination of her head. Your attendant, trembling slightly, presents the brocade bag. You take it. His role is finished. He retreats backwards, knees bent, until he is out of sight. You are alone with the lady and your instrument. You move past her, your socks silent on the smooth, cold wood of the veranda. The morning air is fresh and damp, carrying the scent of wet pine and distant, cold earth. You find the third pillar. It is a massive, red-lacquered cedar column. You kneel, arranging your mountainous sashinuki around you, setting the brocade bag gently before you. You look down, as instructed. In your peripheral vision, you can see the edge of the veranda, and beyond it, the dark, tangled silhouette of the garden against a sky that is now a soft lavender, bleeding to apricot at the horizon. And there, just above a distant, perfectly pruned pine, you see it, the morning star. Venus. A fierce, unwavering diamond of light in the fading velvet of night. It is breathtakingly bright, a puncturing hole into a realm of pure, cold brilliance. And you see, at the very edge of your vision, another form, perhaps 10 paces away at the veranda rail, a seated figure in layers of deep, somber color robes, the Kamuri taller and more ornate than yours. He is perfectly still, gazing east. The Emperor. Your audience of one. The reality of it hits you with a physical force, a tightness in your chest. This is not a concert. It is a communion. You are here to translate that celestial spark into vibration, to bridge the vast silence between heaven and earth with the voice of your 4 strings. Your fingers, tucked into your sleeves, feel suddenly cold and clumsy. You take a slow, silent breath, filling your lungs with the dawn air, willing the aloeswood calm to spread through your blood. The star still shines. You have moments, perhaps only minutes, before its light is swallowed by the day. You slowly, so slowly, untie the brocade bag and draw out your biwa. The instrument feels alive in your hands, a cool weight of polished wooden taut potential. You do not simply grab it, you receive it. You cradle the smooth, pear-shaped body against you, its curves fitting into the hollow of your shoulder as if grown there. The paulownia wood, chosen for its lightness and resonant qualities, seems to hum with a silent energy. This is not a piece of property, it is a partner, and a profoundly temperamental one. Before a single note is played, before it is even tuned in this sacred space, you must attend to its spirit. This is the ritual, the private covenant between musician and tool that happens invisibly beneath the pomp. First, purification. You take a small, folded square of pure white silk from your sleeve, a fukusa, and with deliberate, gentle strokes, you wipe the biwa's face. You dust the smooth soundboard, polish the 4 ivory tuning pegs, run the cloth along the slender, fretted neck. You are not cleaning dirt. You are wiping away any lingering kega, spiritual pollution, from the journey here, from the mundane air of your chamber. You are preparing it to touch the rarefied atmosphere that surrounds the Emperor, a zone considered perpetually pure. Next, you check the bachi, the large, teardrop-shaped plectrum of polished boxwood. You run your thumb over its edge, ensuring it is smooth, that no splinter might catch a string and produce a choked, ugly sound. You tuck it into your sash, within easy reach. Now, tuning. This is the most perilous moment before the music itself. The strings, made from twisted silk, are hypersensitive to the damp morning air. You pluck the first string, the lowest pitched, with your thumbnail. The note hangs, a dull pon. It is flat, sleepy. You reach for the corresponding peg, turning it with infinitesimal pressure. The silk groans softly. You pluck again. Closer. A third micro-adjustment. The note settles into its true voice, a deep, rounded bow, vibrating in the wood against your chest. You move to the second string, tuning it a perfect fourth above the first. Then the third, another fourth up. The fourth and highest string is tuned to the octave of the first, but here lies one of those lesser-known, amusingly human details. Because silk strings are so unstable, and because the precise mathematical intervals of Tang dynasty theory sometimes clash with the more fluid Japanese melodic sense, the exact tuning can become interpretive. A truly fanatical purist might use a small, portable show, a mouth organ, pipe to get the pitch, but in a dawn emergency like this, you are tuning by ear, by memory, and by what feels right for the mood of the sky and the quiet figure at the rail. Historians find manuals that bemoan the lazy, approximate tunings of later Heian musicians, a sure sign that by your time, practicality often triumphed over rigid theory. You get the fourth string close, but leave it just a hair sharp, knowing it will settle as it warms with play. You cradle the instrument, your left hand hovering over the frets, your right hand resting lightly on the strings near the bridge. You close your eyes for a heartbeat, not in prayer, but in focus. You are not thinking of the notes of banshiki anymore. The piece has dissolved in your mind, replaced by the sensory reality of the moment. The cold wood under your knees, the scent of dew and distant incense, the profound, listening silence. The music now must come from here, from this specific confluence of place and pressure. The biwa is not a machine for reproducing a score. It is a medium for channeling a kyokan, a lesson, or an atmosphere. Your job is to make audible the poignant, fleeting beauty of a star yielding to the sun, of night's solitude giving way to day's scrutiny. It is a metaphor, and your strings are the metaphor's voice. You hear a shift. Not a sound, but a change in the quality of the light against your lowered eyelids. The star is fading. This is your cue. You open your eyes, still looking down at the gleaming wood of your instrument. You take the bachi from your sash. Your right hand lifts, the movement slow and from the shoulder, as if drawing the sound up from the earth itself. You let it fall. Pon. The first note is not loud, but it is immense in the silence. It is a fundamental, a ground tone. You let it ring, vibrate, decay into the wood and the air. You do not rush. The space between notes is as important as the notes themselves. It is where the listener's soul travels. You pluck the second string, a fourth higher. A questioning interval. Then a slow, deliberate drag of the bachi across the first and third strings together, a dissonant, shimmering cluster that resolves as you lift the plectrum. You are not playing a melody yet. You are painting the sky, the empty, cool vastness. Now, your left hand begins its dance. You press the strings against the frets, not with the tender pads of your fingertips, but with the harder, bony underside of your first joints, creating the distinctive, subtly buzzing soari tone that is the soul of the biwa's sound. It is a gritty, melancholic resonance, a beautiful imperfection woven into the instrument's very design, a feature, not a bug. This buzz is the sound of human frailty, of wood and silk straining against their limits. It is the sound of emotion. You begin the opening phrase of the modified banshiki, but it is slower, more spare. Each note is a placed stone in a stream. You glance, with your eyes only, towards the horizon. The star is a faint watermark now, a memory of light. Your right hand sweeps across all four strings in a swift, cascading arpeggio, a sound like falling water, or like the last of the starlight scattering. You are unaware of time. You are a conduit. The music is simple, repetitive, meditative. A short motif rises, falls back, rises again slightly varied. You use a technique called uchikiri, where you strike the string and then immediately mute it with the fleshy part of your palm, creating a staccato, poignant sound like a quickened heartbeat suddenly stilled. You play a series of these, growing softer, until they are just whispers of vibration. The sky is now a clear, pale blue. The star is gone. You let the final note, a single, open first string, ring out. You do not mute it. You let it speak until its voice dies a natural death, fading into the morning birdsong that is now tentatively beginning in the garden. Silence returns, deeper and more profound than before. It is a silence you have filled, and now it rests, changed. You lower the bachi. You place your hands, trembling slightly from the sustained tension, in your lap. You keep your head bowed, your eyes on the biwa's silent strings. You wait. You have done all you can. You have offered your translation. Now, you await the verdict, which may come as a word, a gesture, or simply as more silence. The silence stretches, thin and delicate as a spider's thread. It is not an empty silence. It is heavy with your spent music and the weight of imperial perception. You hear the soft call of a yugisu from the pine bough, a liquid trill that seems to comment on your performance. You hear the distant, rhythmic shush-shush of a servant sweeping a far-off walkway. But from the direction of the veranda rail, nothing. Your heart, which had settled into the steady pace of the music, now begins a slow, hard knock against your ribs. This is the worst possible outcome, indifference. A mistake would have been a clean, sharp pain. This suspended judgment is a slow acid drip of dread. Then, a sound. Not a word, but the subtle, rustling sigh of heavy silk against silk. A movement. You keep your gaze lowered, but your peripheral vision catches the dark shape of the emperor rising from his seated position. He does not turn to you. He takes a step along the veranda, then pauses. His voice, when it comes, is not the booming command you might fear, but a quiet, meditative tone, almost as if speaking to the vanished star. The sigh of the night, finding its voice in the day. A pause. It was adequate. 2 words. Yoshi, kana. Adequate. In the exquisite, understated lexicon of the Heian court, this is not damning with faint praise. It is high, if reserved, approval. Adequate means you matched the moment. You did not intrude. You served. A flood of relief, so intense it feels like weakness, washes through your muscles. You have to consciously keep your shoulders from slumping. You sink forward into a deeper bow, your forehead nearly touching the cool wood of the veranda floor beside your biwa. This unworthy one is overwhelmed by your august tolerance. You murmur into the floorboards, the formal phrase coming to your lips by drilled instinct. There is another rustle. You sense, rather than see, him turning slightly in your direction. That final uchikiri sequence, he says, his voice still detached, analytical. The one like fading footsteps. Was that in the original Tang score? This is the true test. A technical question. He was listening, critically listening. You keep your head down. No, Your Majesty. It was an improvisation. The original uses a sustained tremolo there. But the moment, it felt as though the light was being withdrawn in discrete measures. A tremolo would have suggested lingering. A longer pause. You can feel him considering this. Historians still argue whether the legendary musical sensitivity of certain Heian emperors, like Emperor Daigo who compiled the Gagaku repertoire, was genuine artistic passion or a performative display of cultural supremacy, a way to command yet another sphere of courtly life. Sitting here, your knees aching, you feel the truth is both. The appreciation is real, but it is also a function of power. His whim defines what is beautiful. It is a non-committal sound, but not a disapproving one. You may go. The Chamberlain will know of our satisfaction. Your Majesty. You bow again, holding the position until you hear the soft, retreating footsteps and the whisper of a screen being slid open and shut. He is gone. You slowly, carefully, sit back up. Your hands are still trembling. You look at your biwa, lying in your lap. In the now bright morning light, you see a faint sheen of sweat from your left palm on the neck. You quickly wipe it with your fukusa. Adequate. You repeat the word in your mind, tasting its precious ambiguity. It is a shield. For today, at least, your position is secure. You have not just survived. You have, in a small way, succeeded. But the day is long, and one imperial whim does not grant you a holiday. You have duties at the Gakusho, the music bureau. You repack your biwa with ritual care, wrapping it in its brocade, a servant now tending to a veteran. As you stand, your sashinuki pooling around your feet, you see the senior palace lady gliding towards you from the shadows of a pillar. She stops at a respectful distance. "The August one has retired," she states. Her painted lips might have curved a millimeter. It could be a smile, or a trick of the light. "You will take your morning meal at the bureau. There is a rehearsal of the Saibara folk melodies for the upcoming autumn festival at noon. Do not be late." She turns to go, then adds over her shoulder, "The dry reality check you've come to expect from the palace's veteran administrators. The vice director is in a mood. He attempted to compose a new roi last night. It is said to be ambitious." She disappears behind a screen, leaving you with that deliciously ominous piece of gossip. A moody superior with a bad composition is a danger far more mundane, and in some ways more treacherous, than an emperor's dawn stargazing. You make your way back out of the inner sanctum, through the checkpoints. The guards nod you through with a fraction more deference. News, you realize, travels through these walls not by shout, but by the subtle language of posture and glance. Your gliding walk feels slightly lighter. The morning air is now fully warm, the dampness burning off. You head not to your quarters, but towards the compound of the Gakusho, your professional home. The breakfast awaiting you there will be marginally more substantial than your earlier growl, and more importantly, it will be shared with your peers. It will be the first opportunity to parse the morning's events, to read the reactions of your fellow musicians, and to learn what ambitious truly means when applied to the vice director's new piece. The solo performance is over. Now begins the intricate, collaborative politics of the ensemble. The Gakusho compound is a world apart from the hushed, perfumed corridors of the Sirioden. Nestled in a more utilitarian quadrant of the palace grounds, it consists of several large, open-sided pavilions and a few enclosed storehouses for instruments and scrolls. As you approach, the air itself changes. The serene silence is replaced by a chaotic symphony of sound. The reedy, experimental wails of a hichiriki oboe running through a difficult passage, the deep, wooden thump-thump-thump of someone practicing the shoko drum rhythm, the plaintive, discordant plucks of a koto being tuned. It is the sound of craft, of work in progress, gloriously unrefined. After the lethal quiet of the imperial audience, it feels like stepping into a vibrant, noisy marketplace of talent and ego. You are greeted not by bows, but by a flying pillow. It's a soft, stuffed silk cushion, launched from the shadows of the main practice pavilion with impressive force. You sidestep with the instinct of long experience, and it sails past to land with a soft whomp in the gravel. A peal of laughter follows. Ha! His reflexes are still sharp. The dawn audience hasn't addled his wits. The speaker is Minamoto no Yoshimasa, your closest colleague and perennial thorn in your side. He is a flautist, a master of the Ryuteki transverse flute, and possesses the restless energy and irreverent humor of his instrument. He lounges on the polished floor of the pavilion, his outer hoe discarded, sleeves rolled up. "We heard you were summoned for the Celestial Lament," he says, using the instantly invented, mocking nickname for the Emperor's morning star ritual. "Did you play the Falling Star Fantasia, or the more classic Where Did It Go variations?" You manage a weary smile, sliding off your jita at the edge of the pavilion and stepping up onto the smooth floor. "I played the Please Don't Reassign Me to Sado Island Suite," you reply, setting your biwa back down carefully. It seemed to resonate. This earns a chuckle from the others present. Two koto players, a young hichiriki apprentice trying to look bored, and an older percussionist meticulously winding new leather onto a drum mallet. This is the gossip hour, though no one would call it that. It is the vital, semi-formal break after the morning's first obligations, where information is exchanged not in memos, but in jests, sighs, and raised eyebrows over cups of mediocre tea. The attendant from the kitchen annex appears with a tray. The meal is, as promised, more substantial: a bowl of rice topped with shreds of dried seaweed and a sprinkle of fragrant yuzu peel, a small dish of simmered daikon radish, and a cup of bitter, hot kuchikiri no sihi, the last of the previous year's tea stored in a jar. You take your portion and join the circle. "So?" Yoshimasa presses, his eyes gleaming. Yoshi? Mazu Mazu? Aware. He runs through the scale of possible imperial responses. Good? SOSO? Poignantly moving? You take a bite of rice, chewing slowly. Yoshi, Kana, you say finally. A collective, soft intake of breath. The older percussionist, Master Kobayashi, nods sagely. Kana, he repeats, imbuing the poetic particle with worlds of meaning. Reserved. Poetic. Safe. Well done. The well done is for your discretion as much as your performance. Yoshimosa, however, grins. Ah. The majestic ambiguity. He liked it, but doesn't want anyone to know he liked it, lest it become fashionable and he'd have to hear it every dawn. He mimics a lofty imperial voice. We have decided the morning star is passé. Fetch us the musician who plays the mid-afternoon cumulus cloud. You snort into your tea, earning a faint, disapproving click of the tongue from one of the koto players, a woman named Iame who values decorum almost as much as she values her instrument's tuning. Your levity is unseemly, Yoshimosa-sama, she murmurs, not looking up from adjusting a bridge on her 13-stringed koto. My levity is what keeps me from throwing this flute at the vice-director's head, Yoshimosa counters cheerfully. Which brings us to the main event. The new Roi. He drops his voice to a conspiratorial whisper, though the only listeners are already in the circle. I have it on good authority, from the scribe who was up all night copying parts, that it is a setting of a poem about a lovesick badger gazing at the moon. It requires the Hichiriki to imitate the badger's wail. In the upper register, the young Hichiriki apprentice pales, his instrument suddenly looking like a weapon of self-destruction. Master Kobayashi sighs deeply. A badger, he says, with the profound weariness of a man who has seen musical fads come and go. Last season it was weeping willows. Now it's amorous woodland creatures. What's next? A symphonic portrait of a confused earthworm. You listen, eating your rice, the normalcy of the grumbling and gossip wrapping around you like a warm, familiar cloak. This is the other academy, the one that teaches you which noble is feuding with which musical style is currently in imperial favor, and which of your colleagues is on the verge of a promotion or a nervous collapse. The widely accepted historical fact is that the Heian court was a hotbed of artistic patronage and production. The lesser-known, amusing detail is that it was equally a hotbed of artistic resentment, creative jealousy, and savage critiques delivered in the most exquisitely polite waka verses imaginable. A rival's new composition might be described in a diary as possessing the charming simplicity of a country ditty, which is the equivalent of calling it embarrassingly provincial trash. You finish your meal and stand, brushing a stray grain of rice from your sleeve. When does the torture of the badger begin? You ask. The hour of the horse, Iame says crisply, meaning around noon. We are to sight read. The vice-director expects fluid intuition. She says the last two words as if they are a diagnosable illness. You have some time. You take your biwa to a smaller, quieter auxiliary pavilion to practice the pieces you know will be needed for the autumn festival, the solid, traditional Saibara and Tagaku repertoire. As you run through scales, your mind is only half on the notes. The other half is turning over the morning's events, the emperor's quiet adequate, the vice-director's precarious mood. You are a musician, yes, but in this world, the music is merely the visible bloom on a deep, tangled root system of politics, personality, and perilous chance. The gossip hour wasn't just a break, it was your intelligence briefing. You tune your fourth string, thinking not of stars or badgers, but of the delicate, ongoing composition of your own survival. The hour of the horse arrives, announced not by a bell, but by the deepening angle of the sun and the collective, silent dread that settles over the Gakusho pavilion. You join the gathering ensemble, about 15 of you in total, representing the core string, wind, and percussion sections for chamber works. The vice-director, Fujiwara no Tokihira, has not yet appeared. His absence is a pressure in the room. You arrange yourselves on the floor in the traditional semicircle, instruments on stands or in laps, music stands, lightweight wooden frames, holding the newly copied sheet music before you. You glance at your part. The notation is gakufu, a specialized tablature for biwa that uses Chinese characters and symbols to indicate strings, frets, and right-hand techniques. It's more a memory aid than a precise score, the rhythm and phrasing live in the oral tradition, passed from master to student. The page is a forest of cryptic symbols, and in the middle, a block of text, the poem. You scan it. Yoshimasa was, for once, understating the case. It is about a badger. A mujina, to be precise, pining for the moon, which it mistakes for a giant, unattainable rice cake. The metaphors are strained, the mood oscillating wildly between comic and tragic. This is the afternoon rehearsal, and it promises to be a special kind of hell. A ripple of tension passes through the group. Tokihira enters. He is a man in his late 40s, his face a study in refined dissatisfaction, his robes of a higher, more somber rank than anyone else present. He carries the air of a man perpetually disappointed by the universe's failure to match his exquisite internal standards. He takes his seat at the head of the semicircle, a small shoko drum at his side for keeping time. He does not greet anyone. He simply looks out at the ensemble, his gaze lingering for a painful second on the young Hichiriki player, who looks like he might be ill. We will begin, Tokihira announces, his voice dry as old parchment. The piece is titled Mujina no Kokyu, the badger's sigh. The aesthetic is one of rustic yearning infused with metaphysical paradox. The Hichiriki in measures 12 through 20 represents the creature's futile cry. I want anguish. Not human anguish. Mustelid anguish. Begin at the introduction. You look at your part. The introduction is a series of slow, open chords on the biwa and koto, over which the ryuteki is meant to weave a wandering, lonely line. Tokihira lifts his hands, gives a small, sharp nod, and brings them down. What follows is less music and more a coordinated accident. Your opening chord is fine, a stable, deep bopon cluster. Aime's koto enters a fraction late, her strings buzzing with protest. The ryuteki line, played by a competent but nervous flautist named Soto, wavers off pitch. Tokihira's face remains impassive, but a tiny muscle in his jaw begins to twitch. You press on. The winds enter. The show, the mouth organ with its 17 bamboo pipes, produces a complex, shimmering cluster of notes that is meant to be the moon's cold light, but today it sounds more like a bee trapped in a jar. Then comes measure 12. The young Hichiriki player, his name is Kato, takes a visible, gulping breath and blows. The instrument, a short, double-reed oboe, is notoriously difficult to control, with a sound that can range from sweetly nasal to the scream of a tortured goose. What emerges is firmly in the latter category. It is a sharp, piercing, wildly off-pitch shriek that cuts through the tentative ensemble like a samurai's tachi. The koto player misses a pluck. You flinch, your next chord landing with a clumsy thud. Tokihira does not stop the rehearsal. This is a technique of his. He lets the disaster play out, allowing every musician to fully marinate in their own failure and that of their peers. It is psychological warfare set to bad poetry. You struggle through, following your tablature, trying to provide some harmonic foundation as the ensemble unravels around you. The percussionist, Kobayashi, is staring at his kako drum as if he's never seen it before. The piece stumbles to its merciful conclusion several measures later, the final chord dying a ragged, discordant death. Silence. Thick, hot, and humiliating. Tokihira places his drumsticks gently on the head of the shoko. He steeples his fingers. I see, he says, the words dripping with frost. We have collectively interpreted the rustic yearning as profound musical illiteracy. And the metaphysical paradox appears to be how any of you retain your positions at court. He lets that hang. Kato-san, your badger did not sound lovesick. It sounded as if it had been trodden upon by an ox. We will practice the lament alone. For the rest of you, We will begin again. At half tempo. And if I hear one more note that lacks misstelled anguish, we will be here until the real badgers come out to laugh at us. The rehearsal grinds on for 2 brutal hours. It is a meticulous deconstruction of ego. Tokihira stops every few measures, dissecting tone, attack, timing. He corrects your biwa technique on a single, repeated note, insisting the soari buzz should be more wistful, less phlegmatic. You nod, your neck tight with strain. You catch Yoshimosa's eye across the circle. He rolls his own skyward when Tokihira isn't looking. This is the delicate dance of the ensemble, navigating the volatile ego of the director while maintaining silent solidarity with your fellow sufferers, and secretly judging whose fault each mistake truly was. Historians still argue whether the infamous rigidity of Gagaku rehearsal was about preserving musical purity or about reinforcing the Confucian social hierarchy within the bureaucracy itself. The director as unchallengeable lord, the musicians as obedient, faultless vassals. As your fingers grow sore and the afternoon light slants golden through the pavilion, the answer feels academic. It's about survival, and right now, survival means making this terrible, pretentious piece about a lovesick badger sound like it was handed down from heaven. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, Tokihira gives a curt, dissatisfied nod. It is recognizable as music. We will resume tomorrow. Dismissed. No praise, merely a cessation of hostilities. It is the best you can hope for. As the ensemble packs up, muscles aching, ears ringing with the ghost of the badger's wail, you feel a tap on your shoulder. It is one of the Chamberlain's junior aides, looking officious. "Master musician," he says quietly. "Lord Michitaka of the Northern Fujiwara requests the pleasure of your company in the Shishingden's West Garden Annex. At your earliest convenience." He bows and departs. Yoshimosa, overhearing, raises an eyebrow. "Lord Michitaka? The one with the eclectic tastes?" He means the senior noble known for his lavish patronage of the arts and his tendency to collect talented people as others collect rare ceramics. This is not a summons from the emperor, but it is, in its way, just as dangerous. An unexpected audition has just been added to your schedule. The badger was just the warm-up act. The Shishingden's West Garden Annex is not a place for official court business. It is a venue for private appreciation, for the cultivation of aesthetic bonds that can be as politically binding as any sworn oath. Lord Fujiwara no Michitaka is a power in his own right, a man whose influence stems not from a specific ministerial post this season, but from his vast wealth, his web of familial connections, and his reputation as the court's most discerning, and most fickle, artistic patron. To be summoned by him is a potential windfall. It is also a minefield. His earliest convenience, delivered by a chamberlain's aide, means now. You pause only to ensure your robes are in perfect order, to straighten your kamuri, and to wipe any trace of rehearsal fatigue from your expression. You carry your biwa yourself this time. No attendant is provided or appropriate for this semi-private encounter. The walk to the annex is short but gives you precious moments to think. What does he want? A private concert? An opinion on another musician? A commission for a new piece? Or, most perilously, a subtle offer of patronage that would pull you from the direct service of the Gakusho and into his personal retinue? A move that could accelerate your career or brand you as disloyal to the Imperial Music Bureau. The annex is a small, exquisite pavilion jutting over a carefully curated pond. Michitaka is seated on the veranda, leaning against a polished railing, watching the orange and white koi circle lazily below. He is a man of elegant bearing, his robes even finer than the emperor's had been this morning, in light shades of violet and blue that speak of supreme confidence. He is not alone. A younger man, perhaps his son or a junior relative, kneels respectfully a few paces behind him, and a servant holds a tray with a wine decanter and cups. The scene is calculatedly informal, which makes it all the more formal in its implications. You kneel at the edge of the veranda, place your biwa beside you, and bow deeply. You honor this unworthy musician with your summons, Lord Michitaka. He turns his head slowly, as if pulled from deep contemplation of the carp. His face is smooth, ageless in the way of the perpetually privileged, his eyes sharp and assessing. Ah, the dawn star musician. Rise. Come closer. The reports of your adequacy have reached even these lazy ears. There is a faint, playful edge to his voice. He has heard the imperial remark, of course. In this court, nothing of that nature remains a secret for more than an hour. You rise and move to kneel at a respectful distance, he indicates with a slight gesture. The August one was gracious, you reply, the safe, standard response. Graciousness is his prerogative, Michitaka says, waving a hand dismissively. Competence is ours. Tell me, what did you play for him? Not the standard banshiki, surely? Even at dawn, one hungers for a touch of originality. This is the first test. Do you claim credit for the improvisation, potentially appearing boastful, or do you downplay it, risking that he already knows the details and will see your modesty as dissembling? The framework was banshiki, you say carefully. But the moment felt particular. The music adapted to the fading of the light. Him adapted. He tastes the word. A living performance, not a copied scroll. That is as it should be. He pours a cup of wine, not for you, but for himself, and sips. I find the repertoire of the Gakusho grows stale. Too much tang, not enough Yamato. Too much reverence, not enough spirit. He glances at you. What is your view? Trap number 2. Criticizing the Bureau's choices to an outsider, even a powerful one, is perilous. The Tang foundations provide a profound structure, you say, choosing your words like stepping stones across a stream. Within that structure, there is always room for the spirit of Yamato to breathe. As in a garden, the imported pine provides the form, but the native moss gives it life. He smiles, a thin, satisfied curve of the lips. A good answer, diplomatic, poetic, and just bold enough. Well said. A garden metaphor. I appreciate a musician who thinks in more than notes. He sets his cup down. I wish to hear something now. Not a dawn piece. A dusk piece. Something that holds the melancholy of a day's end, the anticipation of night's secrets. Play for me. Not as for the emperor. Play, as for a connoisseur. This is the audition proper. No specified piece. No prepared score. He has given you a mood, a time of day. He wants to see your soul, your interpretive instinct, stripped of imperial protocol. Your mind races through your repertoire. A Saibara folk song? Too rustic. A Tagaku piece like Etenraku? Too grand, too official. Then it comes to you, Kojo no Tsuki? No, that's centuries in the future. You settle on a lesser played Roi piece, Yoro, nurturing old age. It is stately but deeply melancholic, with a slow, descending melodic line that feels like the sun sinking. It speaks of twilight in both the day and a life. You bow your head in assent. You take your biwa, and without the elaborate pre-cleaning ritual of the morning, you simply check the tuning with a few soft plucks. The strings have held. You close your eyes for a second, pushing away the memory of the shrieking badger, the ache in your fingers. You call up the image of this very garden in twilight, the purpling sky, the first fireflies. You begin. The piece is slow, spare. You emphasize the spaces between the notes, let the soari buzz weep softly. You don't play with the rigid, ceremonial precision of the gakusho. You allow yourself to linger on a fret, to slightly bend the rhythm, to make it feel sung rather than played. It is intimate, almost conversational. You sneak a glance at Michitaka. His eyes are closed, his head tilted slightly. He is not just listening, he is consuming. The younger man behind him watches you with naked curiosity. You finish on a final, resonating chord that fades into the sounds of the garden, the trickle of a small water feature, the rustle of bamboo. You let your hands rest in your lap. Michitaka opens his eyes. He does not speak for a long moment. Then he nods, once. Yes. You understand the difference between a ceremony and a conversation. That is rare. He leans forward slightly. I am compiling a private anthology of pieces that speak to the mono aware of our time, the poignant impermanence of things. I would like a new composition from you. For we were alone. On the theme of the Bridge of Dreams. He references the famous novel by Lady Murawski, A Tale of Fleeting Love and Illusion. Can you do this? This is the offer. Not a job, but a commission. A place in his private anthology would associate your name with his legendary taste, a mark of distinction that could elevate you above the herd of competent bureau musicians. But it would also mark you as his. It would be the challenge and honor of my life, my lord. You say, the only possible answer. Good. You will have 2 months. Present a draft to my secretary. He waves a hand, the audience over. As you bow and begin to retreat, he adds, almost as an afterthought, a word of advice, musician. Ambition is a string that must be tuned with care. Too tight, and it snaps. Too loose, and it produces no worthwhile sound. He turns back to his carp, leaving you to decipher whether that was encouragement, a warning, or both. You glide away, your mind buzzing louder than your biwa strings. A commission from Lord Michitaka. It is a triumph. It is also a potential catastrophe. As you re-enter the more public corridors, you realize the true test has just begun. How to navigate the envy of your peers and the scrutiny of your superiors now that you have attracted the luminous, dangerous attention of a Fujiwara prince. The glow of Michitaka's commission lasts approximately as long as it takes you to walk from his garden annex back to the main administrative thoroughfare of the palace. There, you are intercepted by a man you had hoped not to see today, Yamaguchi, a mid-level secretary from the Ministry of Central Affairs with the perpetually harried expression of someone who handles other people's problems for a living. He bows, a quick, shallow dip that communicates necessity, not respect. Master musician. A moment of your valuable time. His tone suggests your time is anything but valuable to him. A matter has arisen that requires your professional opinion. In writing. He proffers a slender, rolled scroll tied with a plain string. You take it, a sinking feeling in your stomach replacing the earlier buzz of ambition. You break the string and unroll the paper. It is a petition, written in a beautiful, feminine hand. It is from Lady Kajero, a mid-ranking consort of a mid-ranking prince. She is petitioning the ministry for an increase in the musical allowance for her household, specifically to retain the services of a koto tutor for her daughters. The tutor is named, a woman called Akiko, formerly a minor attendant in the Gakusho's textile repair department who happens to be a koto virtuoso. The petition is eloquent, steeped in references to the civilizing importance of music for young ladies of good breeding. Attached, as required, is a supporting statement from a recognized musical authority. The space for that statement is blank. Yamaguchi's expectant gaze tells you who is meant to fill it. This is the poisonous petition. On the surface, it is a trivial favor. Lady Kajero is not a major political player. Supporting the musical education of young women is a morally unimpeachable act. The tutor, Akiko, is by all accounts talented. Why the dread? Because you know, as everyone in the court knows, that Lady Kagero's household is quietly, bitterly at odds with that of Prince Atsumichi, who is a fervent supporter of the current head of the Gakusho, your own Vice Director Tokihira. Prince Atsumichi believes the Bureau's resources are stretched too thin as it is. More pointedly, Akiko the tutor is the younger sister of a musician who recently and publicly refused a commission from Lord Michitaka, citing loyalty to the Gakusho. To endorse this petition is to subtly side against a subtle faction, to stick a tiny, decorative pin into a map of alliances you are only half aware of. My opinion on her technical skill is one thing, you say carefully, not looking up from the scroll. But an endorsement for ministry funds is a statement of professional judgment, Yamaguchi finishes smoothly. And who better to judge than the musician who so adequately served the emperor this morning? Your word carries weight now. He says this not as a compliment, but as a statement of fact. Your moment of imperial favor has made you a more useful tool, a slightly sharper knife for others to wield. You could refuse. You could claim it is beyond your purview, that only the vice director should make such recommendations. But that would insult Lady Kagero, a minor enemy, and Yamaguchi, a potentially major one, as gatekeeper of bureaucratic processes. It might also make you look either cowardly or arrogantly dismissive of women's education, a bad look in a court that pays lip service, at least, to the cultural refinement of its ladies. Historians still argue whether the feigned political complexity of the Heian court was a deliberate system of checks and balances or simply a dysfunctional bureaucracy drowning in its own etiquette. Kneeling here in a corridor, a simple scroll in your hand, you feel the truth is personal, not systemic. It's about the 1,000 daily choices that incrementally define your allegiance. Your mind races. If you endorse this, Tokihira may hear of it and see it as disloyalty. If you don't, you make an enemy of a secretary and a noble lady for no tangible gain. The commission from Michitaka hangs over you. Any move you make will now be seen through that lens. You make a decision. You will write the endorsement, but you will write it specifically. You will praise Akiko's technical skill with the koto based on a fictional memory of hearing her play at a vague past gathering. You will commend Lady Kagero's dedication to her daughter's cultivation. But you will not explicitly state that the ministry funds should be granted. You will provide the professional opinion requested, but stop short of the political advocacy. It is a narrow line to walk, a dance of ink and implication. I will need my writing box, you say to Yamaguchi. I can provide a statement before the day's end. He bows again, that same shallow dip. Your diligence does you credit. I will send a clerk to your quarters at the hour of the rooster. He turns and melts back into the stream of passing officials. You re-roll the scroll, your fingers leaving faint damp marks on the paper. The weight of the biwa on your back feels heavier. Michitaka's commission promised a path to individual artistic distinction. This petition is a reminder that before you can be an artist, you are a bureaucrat in silk, navigating a paperwork minefield where a single gracefully phrased sentence can be your undoing. You think of the badger from the rehearsal, pining for a distant, unattainable moon. You feel a sudden, profound kinship with the creature. Your moon is a simple, uncomplicated life of music. And it is just as illusory, perpetually obscured by the thickets of courtly obligation. You continue your gliding walk, not toward the Gakusho, but toward your own quarters. You need your writing box. You need a moment of quiet to compose this deadly little note. As you round a corner, you almost collide with a servant carrying a large, flat, wooden box wrapped in dark blue furoshiki cloth. He startles, recovers, and bows deeply. Master musician. Forgive me. A delivery for you, just arrived at the gate. A delivery? You weren't expecting anything. The servant presents the box. It is about 2 feet long, 1 foot wide, elegantly made. There is no note attached, but the furoshiki cloth itself is of exceptionally fine silk, dyed in a shibari pattern of waves and cranes, a pattern associated with the Kamo family, influential Shinto ritualists. Your heart, which hasn't had a moment's peace all day, gives another uneasy lurch. A gift, unannounced and from a powerful, unrelated clan. This is not a reward. This is a statement. And you have no idea what it says. You accept the box. It is surprisingly light. The servant scurries away, his duty done. You stand there in the corridor, the petition scroll in one hand, the mysterious box in the other, feeling like a marketplace porter who has taken delivery of 2 dangerously fragile worlds. Protocol dictates you do not open a gift in public. It must be received, acknowledged, and examined in private, with the appropriate expressions of gratitude, or alarm, carefully prepared. You continue to your quarters, the box held before you like a sacred, potentially explosive, relic. Once inside your small room, you slide the door shut. You set the box on the low writing desk and kneel before it. The wave and crane furoshiki is tied with a complex, elegant knot. You untie it slowly, folding the precious cloth with ritual care. It is itself a gift of significant value. Beneath it is a plain porlone wood box with a simple brass latch. You lift the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of raw, pale green silk, is a bachi, a biwa plectrum. But it is unlike any you have ever owned or even seen. It is carved from a single piece of ivory, not the usual boxwood. It is slender, almost delicate, with a subtly curved grip that promises perfect balance. The striking edge is beveled to a glassy smoothness. It is a masterpiece of the carver's art, so fine it seems it might shatter if used to actually strike a string. And laid alongside it is a small silk pouch. You open it, tipping the contents into your palm. 5 new biwa strings, each coiled perfectly, gleaming with the soft, golden sheen of the highest quality, double-twisted silk. These are not the standard issue strings from the gakusho stores. These are legendary Kyotogawa strings, said to be made by a single, secretive workshop whose output is reserved for the imperial family and a handful of the greatest living masters. The gift of scandal is not a bribe of gold or land. It is a bribe of perfection. It speaks directly to your soul as a musician. It says, "We understand you. We appreciate the artist, not just the functionary. You deserve tools worthy of the beauty you create." It is a profoundly seductive, utterly dangerous sentiment. There is no note, but the message is clear. This is from someone with immense resources and connections, someone who knows your instrument, your recent imperial favor, and your ambitions. The Kamo family motif on the wrapping is likely a red herring, or a deliberate misdirection. The real sender could be a rival of Lord Michitaka, seeking to woo you away before his commission even begins. It could be from a faction within the imperial family itself, testing your loyalty. Or it could be from Michitaka himself, a follow-up to his commission, a tangible demonstration of the rewards of his patronage, though such a direct gift so soon would be uncharacteristically clumsy for a man of his subtlety. You stare at the ivory plectrum. In the right light, it seems to glow. You have a sudden, almost painful urge to pick it up, to feel its balance, to try it on a single string just to hear the difference such a tool might make. You resist. To even try it would feel like accepting the unspoken contract. This is the court's true currency, not coins, but obligations, woven from silk strings and carved from ivory. The widely accepted historical fact is that gift-giving was a central pillar of Heian political and social life, governed by intricate rules of reciprocity and rank. The lesser-known, brutal reality was that the most dangerous gifts were the ones you genuinely desired. You close the box. You cannot keep it. But you cannot refuse it outright without insulting the anonymous, powerful sender. The correct, agonizingly delicate procedure is to have your attendant discreetly return the gift to the palace gates from whence it came, with a verbal message of profound, bewildered gratitude, and a plea that the sender must have confused you with a far worthier recipient, a classic plea of unworthiness that provides a graceful exit for both parties. But that, too, is a message. It says, I am cautious. I am not for sale. Or, at least, not for this price. It might earn you respect. It might earn you an enemy. You are saved from immediate decision by a knock. It is the clerk from the ministry, a pale youth with ink-stained fingers, here for your statement on Lady Kagero's petition. Reality, in its mundane, bureaucratic form, reasserts itself. You gesture for him to enter and sit at your writing desk, pushing the beautiful, toxic box gently to the side. You prepare your inkstone, grinding the stick in water with more force than necessary. You smooth a sheet of your own, modest paper. You compose the endorsement, choosing each character with the care of a surgeon selecting a scalpel. You praise Akiko's skill. Her touch on the koto evokes the gentle fall of spring rain upon moss. You applaud Lady Kagero's maternal dedication, a model of cultivation befitting her illustrious line. You conclude, thus, the petitioner's assessment of the tutor's qualifications is, in this musician's limited understanding, factually correct. You sign your name and rank, and sprinkle a pinch of fine sand over the ink to dry it. You do not mention the ministry, funds, or necessity. You have provided the professional opinion as requested. You have also built a wall of flowery language between yourself and the actual decision. You hand the paper to the clerk, who scans it quickly, his lips moving. He seems satisfied. It has the right length, the right poetic flourishes, the right signature. He bows and departs, the potential poison of the petition now encoded in your elegant calligraphy and released into the bureaucratic wild. Alone again, you look at the ivory inlaid box. The dusk is gathering, casting long blue shadows in your room. You have the formal garden concert soon. You cannot deal with this now. You wrap the box back in its beautiful, treacherous furoshiki and place it in the far corner of your room, behind a lacquered clothing chest. Out of sight, but pulsating in your awareness. A day that began with a star has become a tangled knot of music, politics, and perilous gifts. You have navigated the Emperor's dawn, the Vice-Director's badger, a Lord's commission, and a ministry petition. You feel not like a musician, but like a tightrope walker who has been on the wire since sunrise, and the most delicate crossing, the evening performance, is still to come. The dusk concert is not an intimate, soulful affair like your morning audience or the private audition. It is a social event, a moving painting where music is but one color in a broader tableau of fashion, flirtation, and factional display. It is held in the south garden of the Empress's quarters, a space renowned for its late-blooming Hagai bush clover and its artfully meandering stream. As you arrive with the rest of the small ensemble, Yoshimosa, Aiemon Koto, the chastened Kato on Hichiriki, and Master Kobayashi on percussion, the scene is already in full, murmuring life. Lanterns shaped like delicate birds and glowing spheres are being lit, their warm light battling the deep indigo of the encroaching twilight. Courtiers and ladies are arranged in small groups on verandas and on specially laid-out mats in the garden itself, their light robes creating pools of color in the gloom: saffron, sage green, lavender, deep plum. The air is thick with competing perfumes: sandalwood, lotus, plum blossom, a fragrant fog through which laughter and poetry snippets drift like fireflies. Your ensemble is to provide the ambient soundtrack, a flowing stream of sound over which the real business of the evening, the seeing and being seen, will take place. You take your designated place in a small, semi-open pavilion to the side of the main gathering, slightly elevated so your sound will carry. You tune your biwa quickly, the familiar routine a comfort. You are using your old, reliable boxwood bachi. The ivory one remains, a hidden star of potential, back in your room. The pieces selected are the uncontroversial, beautiful standards, Etenraku, Soren, and a few lighter Saibara melodies. The music is meant to be impressive but ignorable, a sonic perfume to match the incense. The vice director Tokihira is here, of course, holding court with a cluster of senior nobles. You catch his eye for a second. He gives a minuscule, neutral nod. Your endorsed petition has either not reached him yet, or he has chosen to table his reaction. Lord Michitaka is also present, reclining on a cushioned dais, occasionally leaning to whisper something that makes the lady beside him hide a smile behind her fan. He does not look at you. His indifference is a performance in itself. Tokihira signals. You begin. The opening notes of Etenraku ring out, stately and grand. The conversational hum of the garden dips slightly, a sign of polite acknowledgement, then rises back to its previous level. You are part of the scenery now. You play, your fingers moving from memory, your ears attuned to the blend of the ensemble. Yoshimosa's flute line weaves through your chords like a smiling serpent. Aime's koto provides a shimmering, liquid foundation. It is technically flawless, and utterly devoid of the personal risk you took this morning. This is music as wallpaper. And then the battles begin. Not with the music, but against it. First, the mosquitoes. As the last of the light vanishes, they emerge in singing, biting clouds from the nearby stream. You see a lady twitch violently, then compose herself. A nobleman slaps his own neck with a soft couse. You feel one land on your own wrist, just below your sleeve. You cannot stop to swat it. You play on, the majestic Etenraku, now underscored by the faint, frantic slaps and rustles of your audience fighting a tiny, humming enemy. Historians still argue whether the famed Heian appreciation for nature extended to all its creatures, but the evidence in these gardens suggests a firm aesthetic line was drawn at blood-sucking insects. Next, the competition. From across the garden, near the veranda, a group of younger courtiers begins a spontaneous poetry competition. Their voices, fueled by sake, rise in animated recitation, clashing with the serene tempo of your piece. You see Tokihira's jaw tighten. You instinctively play a little louder, your bachi striking the strings with more force, trying to reclaim the auditory space. Yoshimosa, ever the improviser, subtly embellishes his flute line, making it more floried, more attention-grabbing. It becomes a gentle duel, poetry versus melody. Then, the worst offender, distant, uproarious laughter from a pavilion hidden behind a screen of bamboo. It's a male, belly-deep guffaw, completely at odds with the refined atmosphere. It cuts through the music like a rock through paper. Master Kobayashi misses a drum cue, his concentration broken. You falter for a half-beat, your fingers stumbling on a simple transition. It's a tiny mistake, but in the context of this flawless, background performance, it feels like a scream. Tokihira's head swivels towards your pavilion, his eyes narrowed. You recover instantly, but the damage is done. The seamless sonic tapestry has a visible patch. You play through the rest of the set, your earlier confidence eroded. The music becomes a defensive action, a holding of ground against the encroaching chaos of the social event it is meant to adorn. This is the reality of the court musician's life. You strive for spiritual transcendence at dawn, and by dusk, you are fighting mosquitoes and drunk nobles for the right to be heard. The widely accepted fact is that Gagaku was the official, sacred music of the imperial court. The lesser-known detail is how often that sacred music had to compete with the profoundly secular realities of the people it was meant to elevate. The final piece ends. There is a smattering of polite applause, mostly from those closest to your pavilion. Your duty is done. As you pack your instrument, your muscles tense from hours of kneeling and playing, you see a senior lady-in-waiting approach Tokihira. She whispers in his ear. He listens, his expression not changing, but his gaze slides across the garden to where Lord Michitaka is now accepting a cup of wine from a servant. Then, his gaze flicks to you. It is not a friendly look. The message is clear. Your day is not over. The nightly report awaits. The vice director will want an accounting of the music, of the mistakes, and perhaps of the whispers he has heard about dawn stars, Fujiwara commissions, and ministry petitions. You are not summoned to Tokihira's office. That would be too direct, too administrative. Instead, a junior page finds you as you are leaving the garden, your instrument bag slung over your shoulder, the scent of mosquito-repelling incense still clinging to your robes. The vice director requests the pleasure of your reflections on the evening's music in the Kyoso-in, the boy says. The Kyoso-in is a small, secluded reading hall attached to the Gakusho Library, a place for quiet study, and for quiet, unminuted conversations. It is the perfect venue for a debrief that is also an interrogation. You dismiss Yoshimosa and the others with a look. They melt away, their expressions a mix of sympathy and relief that it is you and not them. You follow the page through now dark corridors, lit only by the occasional paper lantern casting long, dancing shadows. The festive sounds of the garden fade, replaced by the profound, echoing silence of the palace at night. It is a silence that feels heavier than noise, full of secrets and listening walls. Tokihira is already in the Kyoso-in. He has changed out of his stiff court ho into a more relaxed, but no less expensive, silk kariginu jacket. He is kneeling at a low desk, a single scroll open before him, but he is not reading. A single oil lamp illuminates his sharp features and the steam rising from a cup of tea. The page silently closes the door behind you, leaving you alone. You kneel on the other side of the desk and bow. You wish to see me, Vice Director. He does not look up immediately. He takes a slow sip of tea, the sound loud in the quiet room. Reflections, he says, putting the cup down. On the performance. Begin with the mistake during Soren. What caused it? No preamble. No discussion of the overall atmosphere. He goes straight to the floor, like a surgeon to a tumor. An unexpected distraction from the North Pavilion, sir. Laughter. It broke Master Kobayashi's rhythm, and I faltered in response. You offer the truth, cleanly. To make excuses would insult his intelligence. HMPH. The North Pavilion. That would be Lord Nakatomi's sons. Drunk on novelty and poor sake. He says it with disdain. A musician's focus should be a stone in a river, unaffected by the passing turbulence. Was your focus elsewhere tonight? He lifts his eyes to yours for the first time. The lamplight makes them look like chips of obsidian. My focus was on the ensemble, sir. As always. As always. He lets the phrase hang. He unrolls the scroll a little further. It is not a musical score, but what looks like a personnel roster. I have received communications. Today has been a busy day for you, it seems. An imperial audience at dawn. A private consultation with Lord Michitaka in the afternoon. A professional endorsement for the ministry. And now, I hear, a mysterious delivery at your quarters. He ticks them off on his fingers, his voice utterly flat. A veritable symphony of extracurricular activity. This is the nightly report. It is not you reporting to him, it is him reporting to you what he already knows, and watching your reaction. Every move you made today has been observed, noted, and filed. The court has eyes in the very grains of the wood. The audience was a summons, as you know, sir, you say, keeping your voice calm. Lord Michitaka requested a musical opinion. The ministry required a professional judgment on a tutor's skill. I performed these duties as a servant of the court and the bureau. You carefully do not mention the commission for the new composition. If he doesn't know about it, you won't volunteer it. The delivery you ignore entirely, acknowledging it would require an explanation you do not have. Duties, he echoes. A musician's primary duty is to the gakusho. To its repertoire, its discipline, its unity. He leans forward slightly. Lord Michitaka has a collector's enthusiasm. He plucks blossoms from many gardens. But a blossom, once plucked, often wilts faster on a solitary shelf than it would on the branch, surrounded by its fellows. The metaphor is not subtle. He is warning you that Michitaka's patronage is fickle and isolating. As for the ministry petition, Lady Kajero is a persistent gardener in rather barren soil. Your endorsement was correctly phrased. It will suffice. So he has read it. He has dissected your carefully worded statement and found it acceptably non-committal. A point in your favor, perhaps. He sits back. The Emperor's adequate is a valuable token. Do not spend it frivolously. Do not let it make you a target for every noble with a spare moment and a desire for a fashionable musician. He pauses. There is a reception for the Korean envoys in 10 days. The full Tagaku ensemble. You will play first biwa. Ensure your technique is flawless. No distractions. No private commissions clouding your interpretation of the standard forms. Am I understood? This is your assignment, your leash. A high-profile, traditional performance. A command to toe the line, to reaffirm your primary loyalty to the Bureau and its unchanging canon. It is both an honor and a cage. Perfectly, Vice Director. I am grateful for the opportunity. He gives a short, final nod, picking up his tea again, a clear dismissal. Your day has been long. Retire. And musician, you pause at the door. Dispose of any gifts that do not come through proper channels. They have a tendency to complicate the harmony. You bow and slip out into the dark corridor. Your heart is pounding. He knew about everything. The endorsement, Michitaka, the gift. His final warning was unequivocal. Get rid of the ivory bachi. Align yourself. The message of the nightly report is clear. You have attracted notice, and from now on, you will be balanced on a knife's edge. One side is the creative, risky patronage of Michitaka. The other is the rigid, secure hierarchy of the gakusho under Tokihira. Your life as a court musician just became a tightrope walk between two powerful men who see you not as a person, but as an instrument to be tuned to their own purposes. The walk back to your quarters in the profound dark feels longer, and lonelier, than any that came before. The return home is not a journey of relaxation, but a final, meticulous unraveling of the public self. The palace grounds at night are a different creature, still, watchful, patrolled by the occasional shadowy figure of a guard whose armor gives a soft clink in the distance. The lanterns are fewer, their light creating islands of gold in a sea of black. You glide through them, your sashinuki whispering secrets to the silent walkways. The social and political noise of the day is gone, replaced by the sound of your own breathing and the distant, lonely hoot of an owl. You are a specter in silk, carrying the day's accumulated weight. You reach your modest residence, a small, standalone building allotted to mid-ranking officials. Your single attendant, an old man named Jiro who has served your family for decades, is waiting. He has lit a single oil lamp inside, and the warm, faint glow from the shoji is the most welcoming sight you've seen all day. He slides the door open as you approach, bowing deeply. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. He takes your biwa bag from you as if receiving a newborn, his movements reverent and sure. Inside, the room is spare, clean, and blessedly, profoundly private. This is your sanctuary, the one place where the layers can come off. Gyro helps you. The process is the morning's ritual in reverse, but with a sigh of release woven into every motion. First, the Komori cap. He lifts it from your head with both hands, places it on its dedicated stand, a moment of profound physical relief as the pressure on your skull vanishes. Next, the stiff ho jacket. He helps you slip your arms out, the weight leaving your shoulders. The patterned noshaim robe follows, then the pale blue haito. Finally, you are down to the white akome underrobe and the vast, cumbersome sashinuki. You step out of the trousers, and Gyro gathers the immense pools of silk, folding them with a practiced, rustling efficiency. You are left in the simple white linen. You feel lighter, physically diminished, but more real. Gyro brings a basin of warm water and a clean cloth. You wash your face, scrubbing away the faint layer of rice powder, watching the white residue swirl in the water. The face that looks back from the surface, blurred and rippling, is your own again, tired, older, marked with the faint creases of a day spent in controlled expression. You rinse your hands, the water carrying away the psychic grime of petitions, warnings, and clandestine gifts. Next, Gyro presents a simple cotton yukata. You shed the last of your courtly underlayers and slip it on. The rough, familiar texture is a balm. You tie the soft belt yourself. The transformation is complete. The court musician is gone, packed away in folds of silk and lacquered wood. The man remains, aching and weary. Gyro has prepared a light evening meal, a bowl of miso soup with slivers of mushroom and green onion, a small portion of rice, some pickles. It is humble, salty, nourishing. No one here watches how you eat. You can slouch a little. You can make noise. The soup is delicious in its simplicity, a direct contrast to the artful, tasteless presentations of the day. You eat in silence, Gyro kneeling in the corner, giving you space but offering the comfort of his presence. As you eat, your mind, freed from the immediate need to perform, begins to process the tangled threads of the day. The Emperor's adequate. The Badger's wail. Michitaka's commission, a glittering promise. The ivory plectrum, a glittering threat. Tokihira's warning, a cold anchor. You think of the gift box, still hidden behind the chest. Tokihira's command was clear: dispose of it. But how? Simply returning it feels insufficiently clever, and keeping it is out of the question. An idea forms, born of exhaustion and a desire for a clean, symbolic act. You will not return it. You will destroy it. Not publicly, but privately, ritually. You will burn the strings and snap the ivory plectrum. It will be an offering, a sacrifice of temptation to the gods of discretion and survival. It will be a message to yourself, written in fire and fracture. You finish your meal. Gyro clears the tray. You thank him, and he bows, his old eyes crinkling. You played for the Emperor today, he says, a statement, not a question. News, even of this sort, travels. I did. He nods once, a deep, satisfied nod. Then it was a good day. In his simple calculus, that is the pinnacle. Everything else is noise. His perspective is a lifeline to a simpler world. He slips out to his own small adjoining room, leaving you in the lamplit stillness. You are alone. The weight of the choices ahead presses in. The commission for Michitaka is a creative pinnacle, a chance to leave your mark on something beyond the ritual repertoire. But it is a path lined with thorns of envy and political risk. The safe route is to obey Tokihira, to excel at the Korean envoy reception, to be a flawless cog in the great imperial machine. It is a respectable life, a secure one. But as you sit in your quiet room, the memory of the dawn audience returns, not the fear, but the feeling. The profound connection of translating a moment of celestial beauty into sound for a single, listening soul. That is why you did all this. That is the musician you wanted to be. Not a bureaucrat in silk, not a pawn in a noble's collection, but a voice for the unspeakable. The path to that ideal, you realize, is now shrouded in the complex dusk of your own ambition and the court's relentless gravity. The lamp's flame wavers, a tiny, dancing sun in the dark room. The public day is over, but the private night is yours, and within it lies one last, essential act of rebellion. You rise from your cushion, your cotton yukata whispering against the tatami. You go to the corner and retrieve the beautiful, poisonous box from behind the lacquered chest. It feels cold. Carrying it to the center of the room, you kneel and place it before you. You are not going to open it again. To see the ivory's gleam would weaken your resolve. Instead, you fetch a small, portable hibachi, a ceramic brazier used for warmth in winter. It's cold and empty now. You place it beside the box. From your writing desk, you take a flint and steel, and a twist of dried, resinous akamatsu pine for kindling. Your actions are deliberate, ritualistic. This is an exorcism. First, you unwind the exquisite woven crane furoshiki, folding it with a final, regretful smoothness. This cloth, at least, is innocent. You will keep it. To destroy something of such obvious value would be its own kind of offensive extravagance. It can be repurposed, its provenance forgotten. Now, the box. You lift the lid. In the dim light, the ivory bachi seems to glow with a captured moonbeam, the strings coiled like golden serpents. You do not touch them with your bare hands. You use a piece of plain linen to lift the strings out first. 5 coils of perfection. You hold them for a moment, feeling their potential strength, imagining the pure, resonant tone they would produce. Then, you place them in the cold hibachi. You strike the flint. A spark leaps, fails. Another. A third catches the resinous pine, which flares with a bright, aromatic flame. You nurse it, adding a few slender sticks of charcoal. A small fire blossoms. You take the strings, one by one, and lay them on the flames. The silk does not burn easily. It smolders, blackening, releasing a sharp, acrid smell that is the death of beauty. They curl and shrivel, becoming brittle, black worms before crumbling to ash. It is surprisingly difficult to watch. Each coil is a possibility destroyed. Now, the plectrum. You lift it with the cloth. It is shockingly light, its balance sublime even in this terrible moment. This is the hardest part. To destroy a tool of such craft feels like a sin against art itself. But its beauty is the hook, the barbed gift meant to land you. You hold it over the hibachi. The firelight plays on its smooth curves. Historians still argue whether the famous aesthetic sensitivity of the Heian elite made them more or less susceptible to corruption. Was the love of beauty a moral compass or a fatal vulnerability? You are providing your own answer, here in the dark. You do not throw it in the fire. Ivory would not burn well, it would only char, leaving an ugly, recognizable corpse. Instead, you grip it with the cloth at both ends. You take a deep breath, thinking of Tokihira's cold warning, of Michitaka's warm trap, of the tangled web you must walk. You think of the simplicity of the single note you played at dawn, before all this complication descended. You snap it. It does not break cleanly. It gives a terrible, fibrous crack, a sound of violated purity. It splits into 2 jagged pieces, then a third smaller shard flies off, skittering across the floor. The pieces in your hand are now just broken trash, their magic gone. You drop them into the fire. They blacken, adding a different, sickly smell to the air. You stare into the flames until the last flicker dies, leaving only a bed of hot ash and the twisted, carbonized remnants of your temptation. It is done. You feel empty, but clean. The anonymous sender's hook has been removed, the line cut. You have chosen a side, not between Michitaka and Tokihira, but between complication and a fragile, personal integrity. You will compose Michitaka's piece. The creative urge is too strong to deny, but you will do it as a servant of the Gakusho, with your own tools, on your own terms. It is a compromise, but one you have authored. The fire dies completely. The room is dark again, save for the single lamp. The air smells of smoke and resolve. You put the hibachi away, sweep the ash into a small pottery dish to be disposed of tomorrow. You place the folded furoshiki in your clothing chest, a souvenir of a battle no one will ever know was fought. Exhaustion, deep and cellular, finally claims you. But there is one more thing you need, one final melody to bookend the day that began with a star. You go to where your biwa rests in its stand. You do not put on your performance face. You do not tune it with finicky precision. You simply take it, in your cotton robes, and sit on the bare tatami, your back against the wall. You are not a court musician now. You are just you, with an instrument. Your fingers find the strings in the dark. You don't need light. The geography of the neck is etched into your flesh, a map more familiar than the lines of your own palm. You do not play banshiki or etenraku or any piece from the sanctioned repertoire. You play an old song, a fuzoku melody from the eastern provinces that would make Vice Director Tokihira shudder with its rustic, unfashionable simplicity. It's a song about a ferryman on a wide river, waiting for a lover who never comes. The melody is built on a pentatonic scale, mournful and circular, with none of the sophisticated dissonances or complex modal shifts of the capital's music. It is the private melody, the one you learned as a child from a traveling musician before you were wrapped in silk and sent to the palace. It is your secret rebellion, a touchstone of the self that exists beneath the layers of office. You play it softly, the notes falling into the quiet room like drops of water into a still pond. The sawari buzz is pronounced, earthy, not refined. You allow your technique to be imperfect, a slight stumble here, a rushed phrase there. It doesn't matter. There is no one to judge, no emperor to please, no patron to impress, no director to critique. You play it for the memory of the child you were, for the man who is tired, for the sheer, unmediated joy of vibration and air. The music is not an offering or a translation or a duty. It is just a song. And in this moment, it is everything. As the last note fades, you sit in the ensuing silence, which is now friendly and complete. The day's tensions, the dawn panic, the bureaucratic traps, the political crosscurrents, seem to recede, becoming stories already half forgotten, like tales of something that happened to someone else. Your arms are heavy, your eyelids heavier. The lamp's oil is running low, the flame guttering. You carefully return your biwa to its stand, your touch gentle, a farewell between old friends. You blow out the lamp. In the sudden, total darkness, you make your way to your sleeping mat, the faint, cool scent of the tatami rising around you. You lie down, your head finding the familiar, unforgiving curve of the wooden headrest. The images of the day drift behind your closed eyes, not as worries, but as shadows dissolving in a deep, dark stream. The pearl-gray dawn, the star-sharp diamond point, the sheen of the emperor's robes, the absurdity of the badger's wail, the cunning glint in Michitaka's eye, the cold ash in the hibachi. You are a court musician. Tomorrow, you will rise again before the sun, you will don the layers of green and blue. You will tune your strings to the expectations of emperors and the whims of directors. You will navigate the whispers and the gifts and the petitions. You will be a functionary, an artist, a pawn, and a philosopher, all wrapped in silk. But here, in the dark, you are none of those things. You are simply a person who played a song for no one, and in doing so, remembered who you are. The world of the Heian court, with all its exquisite beauty and relentless pressure, continues to turn, but for now, you slip beneath its surface, into the deep, silent waters of dreamless sleep. And so, we let the silence of that ancient room settle around us, a silence that is not empty, but full of spent music, of resolved tension, of the soft, regular breath of sleep. The world we visited tonight, so vivid in its colors and its terrors, begins to soften at the edges, its sharp details, the exact shade of the green robe, the specific smell of a losewood, the precise angle of the kamuri, blurring into a gentle impression, like a painting viewed through slightly misted glass. The Heian court, with its rules woven as tightly as its silks, recedes into the past where it resides, a distant, shimmering dream of a civilization that measured life in poetry and protocol. The anxieties of that single day, so immediate and vital to our musician, fade into the long story of a history that has already unfolded, its outcomes settled, its dramas complete. The emperor's favor, the lord's commission, the director's warning, they were the mountains and valleys of a life fully lived, and now they become part of the serene landscape of the past. We can release our hold on that second-person you, letting the weight of those silks, the pressure of those expectations, gently lift from our own shoulders. The journey is done. The final, private note has been played. There is no more need for vigilance, for cunning, for perfect tuning. All that remains is the quiet aftermath, the deep, grateful stillness that follows a story told to its end. So let your own breathing slow to match the peace of that distant room. Feel the solid comfort of your own bed, the familiar texture of your own blankets, the safe, uncomplicated dark of your own night. The court musician has found his rest, his small rebellion complete, his identity reclaimed in a simple, unobserved melody. And you, having borne witness to his long and intricate day, can now surrender to your own rest, carrying with you not the burdens of history, but the soft, lingering echo of a song played just for the sake of its own beauty, a solitary, human sound in the vast and silent night.